All right, good morning and welcome to the Getting Started with CounterSketch webinar. My name is Whitney Rogers. I'm the Training and Technical Support Manager here at Gym Vision, and I'll be walking us through the content today. So first, just looking at today's topics, we're going to talk about selling with CounterSketch, basic design functionalities, quoting and rendering, submitting your order, as well as we'll walk through CAD/CAM services, how they're going to help us in submitting your orders, training options, and we'll do a little meet the team and have questions at the end. So the first thing I want to talk about is selling with CounterSketch. So before you even approach the software with your customer, you want to make sure that you're taking some time to make sure that CounterSketch is the right fit for this customer. There's a few different ways you can do that. The first is to qualify your customer. When I say qualify your customer, you're asking questions such as, do they have enough time for a custom piece? You know, custom pieces can often go back and forth with different modifications, so it can be a little bit more lengthy than the standard in stock piece that you're ordering. So the process takes a little bit longer, so you just want to make sure that the customer's timeline for their special event has enough time for you to get the custom piece in. You can also ask questions about if the customer sees added value in having something custom. Most millennials only want something one of a kind, so you'll find that probably the younger generations are more receptive to being a part of this experience and creating a custom piece with you. Once you've qualified your customer, you want to begin gathering information from them. So we're still not sitting at the software yet. We're still just having a conversation with the customer. Ask them about their likes and their don't likes. What are they looking for? What type of style? Maybe they have jewelry on. You can ask them questions about the jewelry that they're wearing and what they like about it or what they don't like about it. But you're just gathering enough information for a base design. So if they have images, ask them to provide those images for you. You can also walk them around your store, and you can either use some of our selling solutions, such as our prototype kits, or maybe you just want to use some of the inventory that you already have in your store, but have the customer pick a few different styles from your showcase that they really like and have them tell you, this is what I don't like, this is what I like to modify or change. You'll then take those base styles over to the software, and that's giving you the groundwork. So it's going to save you a lot of time as well as your customer a lot of time and make the process just very smooth for the customer, and the customer is less likely to get overwhelmed. So I'll talk a little bit about the library here in just a moment, but if you've opened CounterSketch already, you obviously already have the software. If you've opened it up, there are thousands of designs within the software. And when you think about it, those thousands of designs can also be modified in 1,000 different ways. So if you're going straight to the software with a customer, you haven't really asked any questions or qualified them, they've just said, hey, I want a custom piece, and you walk them straight over to the software, they'll often get very overwhelmed. So you'll also be overwhelmed as the sales associate with that customer, scrolling through all those library designs without really knowing what the customer is looking for, if this is the right fit for them. So it's very important to take that 5 minutes before you sit down at the software to make sure that this is the right process for that customer and get an idea of that base design. Now, we all know we have that customer who comes in and really has no idea what they're looking for, and that's okay. We have the Find Your Style quiz that will help you break the ice and help you narrow down some of the selections. So I'll give you a quick preview of the quiz here in just a moment, but it's going to give you a series of images. The customer is going to select the image that best describes their style. And from there, it's going to provide 2 different filters or styles based on the customer's responses. So it's going to help you narrow down that library selection. So now I'm going to just hop right into the software and start talking about navigation within the software itself. So here you'll see that I am on the start screen. So anytime that you open up CounterSketch, whether you have perpetual or streaming, this is the screen that you're going to see. This is separated just for ease for you, ease of navigation. So we've categorized some of the pieces into different categories just to make it easier for you to navigate. So if you know that you need a men's band, it's very easy versus going all the way into all ring designs. You're going to go straight to the men's bands and you're going to see everything that's available within the library. Here we have that take the quiz or find your style, and it's going to give me a series of images. So you would just hand the mouse over to your customer, let them select the images that best describe their style. And at the end, you'll see your 2 styles options. So this said, I have a vintage style with a touch of contemporary. I can then select browse these styles and it's going to filter my library selection to only those that we have categorized as vintage or contemporary. I'm going to go into all ring designs now and just talk a little bit about how you can filter down selections and how you would work with your customer to really go through and find the styles that they're looking for. So first thing you'll notice, I selected all ring designs. So this is giving me all the rings that are within CounterSketch. And right now I have about 1,300 styles. I have 19 pages, which is way too much for anyone to scroll through. So what we want to do is we want to narrow down the selection. So I talked about gathering information at the beginning. So one of the things that you can do to help make the process even more seamless for you and your customer is gear those questions around the filters that we have available. So what's your center stone shape? Maybe my customer has grandma's oval diamond and they know that they want to set that in the center stone. So I'm going to select this filter at the top for center shape, and it's then going to filter down my library selection to all those that can be an oval center stone. So you'll notice immediately that I went down to about 867. I can further filter down my selection by selecting the center setting. So here I'm having a conversation with my customer. I'm asking them what they're looking for. And they said they really want a bezel center stone. Maybe they work in the medical field. They need something really smooth that's not going to get caught on anything. So they need a bezel head. So that took my 800 designs down to 92. So we're getting to a much more manageable number for my customer to scroll through. Next, we talked about those styles. So if the customer did the find their style quiz, you could utilize one of the styles here, or maybe the customer knows that they're very classic and simplistic, and you can select a style. For this example, I'm not going to select a style. I'm going to go right into the design element. So what is it that your customer really, really wants to see on this piece? Maybe they're very specific. They really love a halo. They absolutely have to have a halo on their piece. You can use this design element. I can select halo, select OK, and that took my 1,300 designs that I started with and it filtered it down to 19 for me. So this allows my customer to scroll through these 19 designs, much more manageable. They're not going to feel overwhelmed by the options presented to them. So a couple of things, while I have filtered this down, I have a few different viewpoints here. So right now, it's always going to default to perspective, which gives me a great overview of the piece and what it looks like. But maybe the customer really wants to see underneath the head. It's really important to them to have maybe a lower piece. They don't want it sitting way up off of their finger. So you can navigate through the different viewpoints to get a better view of the piece from different angles. So you have the through finger, we have the side finger view, as well as the top down view. On the left-hand side, we also have a selection of materials. So customers are always very visual. So if my customer has an emerald center stone, I can update my material to show all the styles with an emerald center, as well as maybe my customer is looking for something that's 14 karat yellow opposed to platinum. So this is just going to give your customer a better visual of what the piece would look like with their preferences. So with their center stone and their chosen metal color. You can also select to adjust the side as well as the accent stones if the customer wasn't looking for side diamonds or accent diamonds. Here, now that I have a selection for my customer to go through, you'll notice as I hover over each piece, I get this little box that appears underneath them. So I can select this box, and this is the pieces that my customer really likes. So these are the styles that they're most attracted to, and I want to save these within their portfolio. So here at the bottom, I have 4 styles selected. I have this gray bar that appeared, and it's labeled Session Picks. If I select these 5 dots, that's going to give me my session picks all in a row and an option to add it to my customer's portfolio. Now, before I select Add Marked Designs to Portfolio, I haven't actually created a portfolio for this customer. So here at the top is your portfolio. You'll notice every time that you open the software, it defaults to New Portfolio. To create a portfolio under your customer's name, you'll simply select the plus sign. I highly recommend that you use the customer's name, maybe the date that they're in your store, just to keep it organized as you create more and more portfolios as you're working with different customers. It'll be a lot easier for you if you have the customer's name and maybe the date that they were in your store for you to go back and reference those styles. So once I hit select, you'll notice that the top here no longer says new portfolio, it says my customer's name. So now I can select Add Marked Designs to Portfolio. When I do that, I can go up to my Design Manager or Portfolio Manager. You'll notice that when I opened, it automatically selected that portfolio that I just created, and it has all of my customers' designs saved. Now, if I know that my customer had a standout favorite, I can select the star to add them to the Favorites tab. I can also come to the Customers tab. I can fill out their first and last name, their address, any contact information, and maybe any information that I gathered while I was talking with my customer and qualifying them, the event date, maybe they mentioned an upcoming anniversary, whatever it may be. This is just for you to go back and reference when the customer comes back into your store. So maybe they created the ring today, but you know that they're going to need the band in 6 months' time when they're getting married. You can make yourself little notes so that you can easily go back and reference. Going to the favorites, you'll see that those 2 favorites appear on this tab now. So I know exactly which pieces my customer really loved to go back and reference. If I had gone in and taken renders of these pieces, so if I had made modifications, those renders would be saved here. So I could choose to export those for my customer to send them to them so that they can show their friends and family. All right, so just a quick overview of the portfolio and how you can keep all of your customers' jobs organized and what they're selecting during your design consultation. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about how you're going to customize pieces and navigate within the software. So in addition to using the filters to narrow down your selection, we also have a search bar in the top right corner. If you're on stellar.com or you have a stellar style and you want to see that if it's in CounterSketch, so keep in mind not all stellar styles or 3C styles are in CounterSketch, but you can always take a look by typing in the SKU. So if you type in a SKU here, if it's in CounterSketch, it will immediately pop up for you to be able to modify it. If not, then you could use the filters to help narrow down the selection to find something that's similar to that piece that your customer has found. You can also type in keywords. So if you had, for example, customer came in, they really want a pave piece, you could type in pave. It's going to give you all of the pieces that are classed as pave. So it does also search by keywords similar to stellar.com. So for this example, I'm going to go ahead and just type in a specific SKU. Here you'll see that it immediately popped up for me. So I'm going to select this piece. It's going to give me my model number, series number, what style it's classed as, and also all of the center stone shapes that it can accommodate. Also have just all the different viewpoints available to me to showcase for my customer. So to start designing, we'll just select that Start Designing button, and it's now going to open up the customization screen. Here on the customization screen, if I right-click, I can rotate my piece. So just right-clicking and holding on your mouse, I can rotate all the way around. We highly recommend that you use the mouse with CounterSketch, and it also has a scroll wheel. The scroll wheel is going to allow you to zoom in and out very easily. So you'll notice wherever I place my mouse on the piece, I use my scroll wheel to zoom in. It's going to zoom straight into where my mouse is hovered over. So it's just going to help you to more easily manipulate and make your modifications and kind of get in on those areas that you need if you're using a mouse with a scroll wheel. Now it's only going to allow me to rotate when I'm in the perspective view. So we talked about perspective view when we were in the library. It defaults to perspective. Same thing when you go into the customization screen, it's going to default to a perspective view. Here at the top, though, you do have the option to do the side, through finger, and top-down view. As you become more advanced, more confident within the software, you start to utilize freehand pieces. The different viewpoints can help you in placing your pieces, your freehand parts on your piece a little bit more easily. So making sure that the piece is laying flat, that it's straight, will just help you position those pieces a little easier. So you'll notice here, if I right click, it's just going to drag it throughout my space. It's not going to allow me to rotate all the way around. I have to be in that perspective view to get that full rotation. You also have a grid available. I only really use the grid when I'm using freehand. It just helps keep you aligned. Each little square indicates 1 millimeter. So it helps you scale size and kind of place things out when you're using freehand. You also have the design try on hand. So just to help a customer visualize what the piece would look like on their hand. You have the option to change skin color, change the finger placement, as well as the nail color and gender. So just to give your customer a more realistic view. Lastly, you have a measuring tool where you can take measurements of the piece. The measuring tools do have to be used in side, through finger, or top-down view. It will not allow you to measure within perspective. And then lastly, you have your stone report. So as I add stones to this piece, this is going to update. It's going to tell me the total carat weight, as well as how many stones and what sizes I have within my piece. On the right-hand side here, I have those same materials that'll allow me to create a more realistic view for my customer. On the left-hand side, this is where all the modifications take place. So this is what we call our design stack. Always, always, always going to start at the top. So first things first is customer's finger size. So here I can select from the drop down, change my finger size to a size 8, and you'll notice that my model automatically updated for me. Always want to start with the finger size, because as you become more confident and you start to utilize freehand parts within CounterSketch, if you don't select the finger size first and you place a bunch of freehand parts onto this ring, and then you later go and change the finger size, the freehand parts are not going to follow the finger size. So it's very important to always start with the finger size and make sure that you have that accurate before you spend time placing any freehand parts on here. Next, we have what we call our kind of quick commands. So these are quick modifications that you can make. Keep in mind that these will be different for different models, so it won't always be the same options available to you. But here you'll see I can turn the gem center on or off. I'm going to go ahead and adjust the center stone shape here just so I can show you this rotation. So coming down into my design stack, I'm looking for a description in order to identify what this is going to change on my piece. Also, as I hover over, you'll notice that my stone here turns blue. That's indicating that this command that my mouse is over is going to adjust that center stone. So here I'm going to select emerald, and then I'm going to come back and select that gem rotation, and you'll see that it rotated my center stone from north-south to east-west. Now I want to kind of come through here. I have a little support bar. You'll notice I hover over, I see a little green highlight there. So I'll just leave that as is, but I do want to go ahead and add mill grain as well as accent gems to my shank. So unselecting those gems once more, you'll notice that I selected the mill grain, but nothing happened. That's because that shank mill grain is actually dependent on the accent gems. So once I add the accent gems, you'll notice that I have the mill grain here on my shank. But if I turn that off, if I turn those gems off, they'll both disappear. So one thing to note is that some commands within CounterSketch will be dependent on other things being turned on or off. So if you select something and nothing happens, for instance, that was to do with the shank, so I automatically thought about the accent gems on the shank. So just keep that in mind as you're making changes. If it's not quite working how you expected, it might be that it's dependent on another command. Next, I'm going to scroll down and you'll see that I have a series of sliders as well as descriptions here. I'm just going to start at the top. I've already adjusted my center stone shape. So here I can adjust my center stone size by simply left clicking with my mouse and dragging across. If I had a customer stone, I can also free type into this height, width, or depth field to accommodate whatever my customer's stone size is. So you can type in there if you had 8.2 by 6.5, a little bit of an abnormal shape, that's okay. You can free type those commands in there. If you don't have a stone or center stone selected for your customer and they want to shop stellar inventory, you can use these shoppers for our serialized diamond, lab grown, as well as serialized gemstones. So this will actually bring you to the stellar.com inventory and you can shop for your stone directly through the software. Now, kind of coming down, I can see different descriptions as well as an image here that indicates what I'm adjusting on my piece. So that gem center height is going to adjust the center stone height. So left clicking and pulling that across, it's going to lift my stone up. Here you'll see just your description as well as the picture representation. So coming down, I'm going to change a couple of things here. So here, my profile bottom shape, it's the bottom profile of my piece. This is actually represented by an image or a shape. So you're going to have some that are going to be controlled by your sliders and images, and some that are going to be controlled by a little picture representation. So I'm just going to round off my profile shape here. So you'll see that round at the bottom. And I would actually like to bring these accent stones further down my shank. So just scrolling through and looking for a command to adjust that. And I don't see anything related to these gem accents. So I'm going to scroll back up and I have an option here that says Advanced Customization Options. When I select that, it's going to give me more options to modify this piece. So whenever you open a piece in the customization screen, it's going to default you to a simple design stack. It's giving you the top commands that have been used for this style. It's so that you and your customer don't get overwhelmed by a huge scroll bar and scrolling through all of the different modifications that can be made to this piece. So if you don't see what you're looking for, select that advanced customization option, and you'll notice now that I have these little tabs. And those tabs are separated, so they're categorized. So if I know that I want to make an adjustment to the accent gems on the shank, it's either going to be under the shank or the accent gems. So it's just to help you make modifications a little bit more quickly and more easily for you to navigate through the software. So selecting accent gems, I said I wanted to pull this endpoint further down. So here I can see that the endpoint is controlled by this slider. So left clicking, dragging, I want it to go about halfway. So I'm going to go to about 51. And that updated my endpoint on my shank. So now I have the option, I think I want to make these stones a little bit smaller. So adjusting those size. Now let's bring it to 1.7. I also want to come in and make an adjustment to my prong style. So I actually want to adjust the prong style to more of a double prong. So now I'm going to navigate to my settings center. Starting at the top, I have different prong shapes. So if I wanted to change the overall shape of my prong, I can adjust the size, how much they bend, but I actually just want to change the overall prong style and how it's laid out. So here, let's take a look at this double prong. So you'll see it updated on my screen, but I actually want a little bit of space between the prongs. I kind of want these prongs to sit on each of these corners on my emerald shape. So here on the right-hand side, I have a little arrow present. So whenever you have more options available to you, you just left-click that arrow, and it's going to scroll you over to show you more options. So here, looking at the picture representation, this looks like the style I'm looking for. So you'll now see I've selected, and I now have kind of that split double prong that sits on each corner. Now that I have my ring design completed, so overall, I'm happy with this. I'm going to give my customer a better visual and just come to that center stone color and select an emerald. As you hover over each, you'll see that the description is changing below. So it's letting you know what that stone is. So coming over to emerald, and I'm also just going to adjust my primary metal color. If this piece was available as a two-piece casting, you would see the platinum represented as well. But since this is defaulted to a one-piece cast, it's changing the entire piece when I select that primary metal color. So some pieces do have that two-part casting that's going to allow you to do a two-tone piece. If you find one that you really think could be two-tone, your customer really wants it to be two-tone, you can always ask CAD/CAM services to split that model for you. If they are able to, they'll make that adjustment for a two-piece casting. So now I have my ring ready to go. I would like to add a band for my customer. So here at the top, you'll see I have an option for band 1 and 2. So selecting band is going to add a band to my piece. If I selected band 2, it's just going to add another band to the other side. So for now, I'm just going to work with 1. Coming back to my design stack, here at the top, when I selected that band 1, I received an additional tab. So this tab is going to allow me to make modifications just to the band. So here, I kind of wanted to match my engagement style and add some stones and the mill grain to my band. I noticed that it automatically adjusted for the finger size. So anytime that you're creating an engagement and a band together, it is automatically going to think that that band needs to be the same finger size as your engagement. So it's automatically going to update that for you. Here at the top, so I've got my finger size. I have those quick commands, a little bit different from the ones that I had for my engagement, but this allows me to select if I want a contoured or straight band. Right now it's straight. If my head was maybe a bit larger for a larger stone and it poked out a bit more, I could select to contour that band so that it sat flush with my engagement ring. I'm going to go ahead and select that mill grain on. You'll notice nothing happened because, like we said before, it is going to be dependent on those gems going on my shank. So here, going to add my gems, and you'll notice that I also received that mill grain. It's also recognizing the endpoint on my engagement, and it's going to assume that my band is going to line up to that same endpoint for my accent stones here. But it didn't update my size, so I actually want to go in and adjust the size of my accent stones. So here, I'm going to show you a different way. I have my band gems. I have my slider here that says band accent gem size. It's highlighting that area in blue. So I know that if I select this slider, I can increase the stone size. But there's also another way that I can adjust the stone size. So if I go into the matching band, here I see my band profile width is 2.6. Right underneath it, it's showing me what my accent gems size is. So if you ever come across a model where you maybe don't have this slider of accent gems to change the size, go look for your shank or band width. So if I adjust the band width, it's automatically assuming that I also want to adjust that stone size to accommodate that band width. So here you'll notice as I pulled it up to 2.8, it also adjusted my stone size to 1.7. I knew it was going to adjust the stones because I had this listed right here. So just a little something to keep in mind as you're using different models and making different modifications to the piece. So now I'm happy with both my engagement and my band. If I wanted to send the customer home with a little render of the piece, maybe they want to share it with their friends on social media, whatever it may be, I can simply come select this render camera option, and that is going to render this model for me. Like I showed you in the portfolio manager, I showed you that renders tab, but it was empty. Now, if we went back and saved this design in our portfolio, those renders would be present there for future reference. So if you need to save, resend to your customer. So there you'll see a realistic render that you can send home with the customer to share with all their friends. Next, we want to talk about the order process. So now my piece is ready to go. I'm ready to place this order for my customer. I'm going to go to the order tab. It's going to take a moment to calculate. So what it's doing, it's taking your metal weight, any modifications that you've made to the piece, and inputting that information here to get it ready to submit to CAD/CAM services. At the top here, if you filled out their portfolio with their information and you have this design saved there, this will populate here, or you can simply just type it in as a reference. I realized I didn't talk about the save button, but the save is right up here. It's this floppy disk icon next to this portfolio manager or manila folder. So you can save at any point. It's automatically going to save it into the portfolio that you have selected. So coming over, I'm going to see areas that are incomplete, telling me that I need to make a selection before I can submit to CAD/CAM. You can choose to purchase stones from Stellar for us to set. You can use your customer stones. You're telling us that you're going to send Stellar the stones for us to set, but they're going to be supplied by you. We're always going to ask for an estimated stone value for insurance purposes. Or you can select no stone supplied, meaning that that is going to be sent to you vacant and you or your jewelers are going to set that center stone. Next, scrolling down, you have a few different finish options. We do offer prototypes, which are kind of brass and glass or alloy pieces that you can use for your showcases if you're creating your own custom kit, maybe. You can also select for semi-finished casting or finished casting. Neither one of these are going to come with any gem set. If you're in a time crunch, customer really wants a custom piece, but you don't have time for us to set, you need it a little bit quicker and you can set it in-house, you can select that semi-finished or finished casting. And then finally, finished and set means Stellar is going to finish and set those stones for you. You're going to get that piece ready to go just without that center stone. Next, your metal color, so you can select from all the options that Stellar has available to you. And also your accent stones. So you can select the same options here, purchase stones, use your customer stones and send them into Stellar, or you can select no stones supplied. On the right-hand side, you have your quality. So you can select from the quality available. If it's out of stock, it will tell you here, it will highlight red or orange to let you know that that is not in stock at this time. Now, let's say I wanted a sapphire accent stone instead of diamonds. I would have to go back into my customization screen and select that accent as a different color. And then once I change it on my customization screen, I go back to my order screen, it's going to recalculate, and it's then going to give me the option for whatever stone that I selected. Scrolling down, hallmark. So you can choose for us to laser engrave the quality mark as well as a Stellar trademark, or you can send in your logo. I highly recommend that you send us your own logo. This is your brand, your business. You're creating this custom piece with your customer. You want your brand to be represented, not Stellar. So you can send your logo over to CAD/CAM Services. They'll keep it on file for you, and we'll laser engrave both that quality mark and your logo on the inside of the shank. If you want to add custom engraving, you have the option to do so. You can type your text, you'll get a little preview here, select your font as well as your fill color. If you have an engagement ring, so if you're creating a matching band, you have the engagement ring that you want to send in to make sure that that band fits up flush. You can select this option and you can select to send that engagement ring over to Stellar. What CAD/CAM will do is they'll actually scan that into a file, and they'll be able to make sure that you have a great match for that band. Great option if the engagement that the customer has doesn't have a band that's normally sold with it. You can create something in CounterSketch, send us the engagement, we'll make sure you have a great match. Next is our More Than a Ring. This is a journey of the piece through production, so through CAD/CAM Services. You can select to have a book in digital images, so it comes in a little book where the customer can write their own little memories of the proposal, whatever it may be, or you can opt to have the digital images only and create something for your customer within your store. These do come at an additional charge. I believe the book is $65 and the images I think are $25 if I remember correctly. But it's a great little keepsake for your customer to show them the journey of their custom piece. You can also opt for a resin sample. This is going to be a resin right off the printer. It's going to have the accent gems grown within the file, but the center stone will be vacant for you. But just so the customer can try on the piece, see about the overall fit before they place their final order. That also comes at an additional charge. I believe, actually, I'm not 100% sure on the pricing on that, so don't quote me, but I believe it's $65. But a great option if you have a customer who's a little bit hesitant in placing a deposit or final order before trying on the piece. Any additional notes that you have for CAD/CAM Services? Maybe you're trying to make a modification, it wasn't working out, you couldn't figure out how to do it. You always want to submit something as close as possible to the end design, but if you can't make that change, you can always leave a detailed note for CAD/CAM Services to make the change for you. Just be sure that if you're asking for changes in this field, one, there could be a modification fee that's applied to your order. Two, you want to be as descriptive as possible. Our CAD/CAM Services team cannot make assumptions on what dimensions that you're looking for. So make sure that you're adding as much detail as possible in this field. If you have a perpetual license and you have an image of what you're trying to create or maybe some additional documents you want to provide, you can select Add File and attach a file to your submission. If you're utilizing streaming, this feature is not available yet, but you can always email in your image to CAD/CAM Services and they'll link it up to your job number. Oh, I'm just going to select no stone supplied. So you'll notice I wasn't able to click get pricing. It's because I had something that was incomplete. So I'm going to select get pricing. And here, a couple of things I want to call out. exact price. When it says congratulations, exact pricing, all of these checkboxes are checked off. That means that we're going to freeze the price that is showing on the screen here. So this is going to be with your markup. So Stellar Showcase, make sure that your markups are set up. So whatever markups you have in Stellar Showcase are automatically going to pull over to CounterSketch when you log in. So this is always going to be a retail cost. So any pricing that comes up in the software is going to be customer facing. You know, we want to make sure that you're never showing the customer what your cost is. So this is always going to be retail facing. So this is a cost essentially that the customer would pay. So if I have all these check marks here, I'm freezing this price. It's not going to change on the date that it ships based on the metal markets. This is what it is. And I have a couple of options here. I can, one, request a different quote if my customer is not ready to go on this piece, or I can select place final order. If you place final order, it goes immediately into production. So keep that in mind. So if your customer is not ready to make this purchase yet, if you've not collected your deposit, please don't click place final order, because that is immediately going to get sent over to our CAD/CAM team to start growing on one of our 3D printers. So requesting a quote, quotes take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. If you're requesting changes to the piece, it might take a little bit longer than that, but normally 24 hours, you'll receive an email from CAD/CAM services, and they're going to give you a quote of the piece. So that's going to be your cost. So what you're paying for the piece. They're also going to send you updated renders of the piece if they had to make any modifications to the piece for production purposes. So keep in mind, CounterSketch will let you create whatever you want, but there are some production standards that we have to meet in order to produce the piece. So you might see slight changes here and there from CAD/CAM services, and that's likely because they believe it's either not going to grow or it's not going to cast well as is. So here you'll put your first and last name. So whoever we need to contact, whoever the quote needs to be emailed to, as well as if you have a customer reference or PO that you want to utilize. Lastly, you can also opt in for SMS notifications. So this will send you notifications when your quote's ready and as your job moves through production, so you can enter your phone number there. So once you select that request quote, it's going to come to CAD/CAM services, and CAD/CAM services is going to work on that quote. They're going to validate the file to make sure that it is production ready, and you'll see that quote come through in about 24 hours. So moving along here, I'm just going to show a little video of what CAD/CAM services is and kind of the process that the piece goes through when it goes into production. All right, so CAD/CAM services, they're going to provide your quotes as well as your renders. They're going to help you make any modifications to the piece. You're also going to be able to track your projects with Stellar's CAM Tracker. So to talk a little bit more about that, you can go to stellar.com/CAD/CAM services. So this is where all your jobs will be housed. So if you come here, you have the CAD/CAM homepage, you have your profile. Your profile is going to allow you to update any of your contact preferences, email, phone number, if you'd like to opt in to those SMS updates as well. And then here, the page that we're viewing right now is My Project. So this is going to list out all of your projects, your request date, as well as your status. And here you'll be able to select View Details, which is going to give you all of the details of that job. So here you can review your projects. So once you receive your quote from CAD/CAM Services, you'll get an email that says your quote is ready along with a link. It's going to take you to this page. So here is a detail of your quote. You're also going to have your request information tab here at the top. You'll have a renders tab as well to review your renders. But most importantly, when you receive your quote, you have 3 different options. You can accept that quote and agree to the terms of service. That's going to start production on that piece. You can select that you would like to make changes to the request. So if the customer reviews the renders, they want to make a couple changes, you can select that change. And then you can also select to cancel the request if maybe the customer decided to hold off on the project, or maybe you submitted a few different quotes for the same customer and the customer chose a different quote. So really important, jobs will never go straight into production. So you make sure that you're always coming and accepting your quote if your customers are ready to go. Now, once you've accepted your quote, you'll get what we call the progress tracker or the CAM tracker. You'll get email updates as your job moves through the process. If you've opted for those SMS updates, it'll go straight to your cell phone as a text message update. But here, once your order is placed, it's going to move along once it's being grown on our 3D printer, once it goes into casting, setting, and completion. So just so you know exactly where your jobs are at all times. You also have a live chat option. So whenever you're on the CAD/CAM homepage or you're with any projects, you're going to have a live chat option. That's going to take you directly to a CAD/CAM representative. So if you need to check on a job, maybe you have a couple additional questions or you want to send them a couple modifications for a specific job, very easy. They are always online. You can just select that live chat option right there. Couple of documents just to call out. I talked about the production standards. Like I said, CounterSketch will allow you to make changes to any pieces, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily producible as is. So our CAD/CAM team, our validators are using the production standards. So you may see them make a few changes to the piece to make sure that it goes through production. We have enough metal to account for polishing and whatnot. You'll also see this merchandise submission form. So anytime that you're sending customer stones, any customer merchandise to us, maybe you're sending in that engagement ring to match up for a band, we're going to ask that you fill out this form. It's very important that you fill this out in full and include it within the package that you're sending to us. As you can imagine, we get thousands of packages every day. So having all of the information, including the CAD/CAM ID that this product goes to, is going to help for a smooth and quick process for both you and your customers. So it just helps us to kind of marry up the product with the correct job so that that can go straight into production in a timely manner. Next, I want to talk a little bit about training. So this is just enough information to get you started, to get you in there familiar with the design stack and how you can make changes within CounterSketch or modifications, but there's so much more that this software can do. So I didn't touch on freehand at all. That gets a little bit more complicated, and an hour is not quite enough time to go all the way into freehand. But there are other opportunities for you to get more in-depth training within the software. So first off, we have our hands-on training. Our 2022 dates are being worked on right now. Those are going to launch probably this week. So if you'd like to join us in person or virtually with one of our Gym Vision instructors, you can sign up for one of our trainings. We also have the Online Academy. So Online Academy is going to be a series of tutorial videos, some inspirational videos that you can go on your own time at your own pace. So it's going to be pre-recorded content for you to go view. If you have streaming, you automatically have access to the Online Academy. If you have a perpetual license, your CounterSketch membership must be up to date. If your membership is up to date, you'll have access to the Online Academy as well as technical support, and you'll be receiving any of those library updates that we launch monthly. Great tool, especially to train more staff within your store. So one thing I really want to highlight in the importance of being successful within the CounterSketch software is you've got to have more than one person trained. So if you have an associate, you've spent the time, effort training them, they're the only ones who know how to use the software. If that associate decides to leave for any reason, maybe health problems, maybe they just decided to pursue a different career path, then you have no backup for CounterSketch. So the Online Academy is a great tool to train several staff members. So have all of your sales associates go in there and become familiar with the software and take the Artisan certification curriculum. So a great tool to get more staff familiar. The more staff you have trained, the more custom sales and the more successful you will be within CounterSketch. We do offer one-on-one training. It's very rare that we have to have one-on-one training for CounterSketch because it is very easy to use and a relatively short learning curve. But if you feel like you need some one-on-one attention, that's one-on-one with our trainer. We do have that option available to you as well. We also have, I don't have it on here, but we have another webinar that we host monthly. It's called the Solution Session. If you go to stellar.com and select CounterSketch Webinars, the Solution Session is deep dive, more advanced content on freehand. So if you'd like a little bit more advanced and want to get familiar with freehand, I recommend that you join that session. Again, you can go to stellar.com /CounterSketch Webinars to register for that webinar. Next, just a little intro, kind of put a face to the name. So if you're interested in training or maybe getting up to date on your CounterSketch membership, Lainey Fontenot is one of our trainers. She's in charge of training development and an instructor. So if you take a CounterSketch training, you're more than likely going to see her. Bo Vallow and Julian are both sales reps for Gym Vision. So yeah, if you have any questions about purchasing training, the Online Academy, they're going to be able to assist you with that. Bo's actually going to be transitioning into a senior trainer role here soon. So if you're looking for more advanced content, maybe you own Matrix Gold as well as CounterSketch, you'll start to see him more frequently. And then myself, my name is Whitney Rogers. This is me. This is my extension. If ever you need help, you just don't know where to go, you need a helping hand, I am always available to help you. I want to make sure that you're successful with this software and it's successful within your business. So moving into a who to contact, just to kind of wrap up the session here, here's some numbers that you might need. So we have CAD/CAM services. So if you have questions about your job, need to make changes, want to talk to a customer service representative in CAD/CAM, this is their extension. We also have technical support for the software itself. So if you're having an issue with CounterSketch, it's giving you an error message or just not working how it should, you can give my tech support team a call and they'll be able to actually remote into your computer. They can help with install, whatever it may be. They're always happy to help. We also have the Gym Vision sales. So as I said, if you're interested in purchasing training or want to check up on your CounterSketch membership, you can give our sales team a call. The general help is myself, so feel free to reach out to me. I'll also drop my email in the chat as well. So if you want to shoot me an email anytime, you're welcome to do so. And if you have any billing questions related to the software itself, so if you just purchased CounterSketch, you have questions about maybe recurring payment or payments in general, you can give this extension a call. That's going to bring you over to my operations manager who can help you with that. So I'll leave this up on the screen, but that concludes our content for today. So I'll open it up to any questions that you may have. You can feel free to type them either in the chat, or there is a questions and answers section as well. I'll stick around for about 5 more minutes to help get those answered for you. If you don't have any questions, thank you for joining us this morning. We really appreciate you taking the hour out of your day to join this session. If you have more staff that you'd like to join this session next month, send me an email. I'll drop my email actually right now. Shoot me over an email so we can make sure to get you the registration link so that you can have other team members start to feel more comfortable and confident in selling within the CounterSketch software. So again, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.